this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Open Drone Map WebODM platform to produce 3D point maps and orthomosaics. This is using imagery gathered from a DJI Air2S drone platform. There are two ways to install the WebODM system. You can either do it for free using Docker and Git, which allows you to set up a Linux virtual machine on your Windows or Mac system and run the WebODM platform through that. Or there's a really easy way to do it using a Windows installer. It's available for purchase. It costs $64 currently. So I went ahead and just did the for purchase commercial version, which also includes some free technical support in case you need that. And it's a great way to support the foundation. So you just say buy for Windows, enter your credit card information, and go through the download and install process. Accept. Make sure you have enough space free on your drive where you're installing it. And we'll just use the defaults. Sure, let's create a desktop shortcut. Okay, well that looked pretty simple. And this will just go through the whole process of extracting all the files, putting them where they need to be. So that'll be useful. All right, well, it looks like it installed successfully. So now the moment of truth here, we're going to launch it and hopefully it fires right up. Okay, cool. All right, so now we are going to feed some imagery into this program to create a 3D map. I've taken approximately 100 photos of my old Willy's Jeep here. The photos are taken from all different angles and they're taken at several different sort of gimbal settings so that you have nadir shots that are straight down. There are some shots at like a 60-degree angle and at a 30-degree angle and then at a 0-degree. So this shows all the different GPS locations of the various shots that were taken. You can kind of zoom in to get a closer view of where all the different shots were. So you can see I tried to get really full coverage, but we'll see how that turns out once we've fed the details into the WebODM processing system. So here it tells you kind of what the needs are that you need to abide by for good quality results, and I tried to follow that with a good amount of overlap between all the different shots. So you just click here to say review your settings. It'll lock in your settings, and then just click to start processing. This will take quite a while. I've sped up this portion of it. It is not quite this fast, unfortunately, but once it starts, it'll start this process of exporting the images and processing, and then you just have to wait for it to finish. Okay, so my first WebODM project has finished here. I loaded 104 images of my old Jeep into the project and just let it process. It took about 12 minutes to process those images. As you can see here, and this progress bar just sort of ticked along until it was completed, which it actually was kind of ticking along slowly, and then it sped up toward the end, so it didn't take as long as I anticipated. But it looks like it succeeded. It does say an ortho photo could not be generated, so I guess the GPS information would need to be in the EXIF tags, which I would think it would be on a DJI drone, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding what that message means. So I'm just sort of learning as I go here. In any case, it looks like it did succeed. I have some kind of image here, and I want to look at the 3D model. That's what I was really intending to do with this, is to generate a 3D model. So let's see what it shows for the 3D model. All right, this looks pretty cool. Okay, well, that looks like a good sign. We have something going on here. I'm just using my mouse wheel to zoom in. And yeah, there you go. Wow, that's pretty good for a first shot at it. It looks like it got a lot of really great detail, and it was able to capture the color, the general texture of the different surfaces. Let's try to get in a little closer and see how this did. Yeah, so that looks like a pretty acceptable first go for using the WebODM software. You can see this was probably a fairly challenging object to map. I took this in, midday sun, so the sun was directly overhead, more or less, and I think that was good because the shadow is pretty much right under the Jeep. But yeah, you can see that it got pretty good representation, and it even kind of is seeing through the windshield there. And yeah, it looks like it really actually did a pretty acceptable job of 3D modeling this. Now, of course, I have some unusual stuff there, so maybe I could have gotten a little bit more uh, of like a straight angle toward the dashboard there. So that's one thing. There really wasn't a lot of light going to that part of it, so I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it struggled a little bit in this area. Um, there is actually a snorkel hole on the hood, so it captured that hole okay. There's a little bit of empty areas here, but I would say, for a quick capture, it seems to have done a really nice job. And let's also just take a quick look at some of the features of the 3D model setting. So the first group here, you can show cameras. This will show you where all of your shots were from, which could definitely be useful if you're out in the field and just have time. You could run the 3D model, really see what shots you got, if there's anything that you missed, like there's a little gap here. Um, so that could be a really useful feature to make sure you got the most complete view of your subject and try to identify any areas where you might need to reinforce your original content. Also, you can see here I didn't get any shots from really low down, so that's probably why I didn't get as good of resolution on some of the stuff under the vehicle. So I think the show cameras view is potentially really useful for that. You can also apply the texture map to the model, so this is really nice. If you click show model, it's going to actually apply the texture that it detected, and it's going to give you a much more clean view of the um, model and really provide a lot more visibility of texture, like the rubber tires and the glass on the windshield and the headlights and things like that. So I think that's really just an awesome feature that you're able to do that. Of course, it's not going to be perfectly smooth, but you could certainly bring this into another 3D modeling program to apply smoothing and cut planes and all those kind of things. So just for having right out of the box texture mapping, I think it does a really acceptable job of that. And you can even see some of the really unique textures on this thing, like the seat is a little worn. There's some tape on the seat that's visible. just all in all, it really is an impressive amount of features for such a reasonably priced and kind of plug and play program. Looking at the back, it got some good textures, and even in this area where it didn't really have great point mapping, it still captured some nice detail of the gauges. You can see the roll bar wrap was captured nicely. The spare tire, you can see the tread on it and everything. So that texture is really pretty awesome. Let's get back to that view. Okay. This just allows you to set some of the kind of details of lighting and things like that, which I think they're all pretty much optimized for a good appearance already. One thing that is really useful is this background feature. So you can turn on a white background, and that's going to really make it much easier to see where you have gaps in your point model. So once again, maybe I realize, okay, I didn't get great coverage of the inside of the vehicle. So maybe I could do another couple close-ups, flyovers of the inside of the vehicle, or even just hold the drone and have it take some shots to get more detail there. So yeah, that white background really helps with that. Or like maybe I could get some shots of the wheels to allow it to fill in the point model of the wheels a little better. So that's a good thing to note. Um, Also, you can go to this high quality. The splat quality can get higher, so you can definitely see a pretty significant difference if you go to high quality. I mean, that's almost equivalent to adding the texture. You can see here if I switch between the high quality and the texture model. Um, Probably just takes a little more computing power, but all in all, seems to work nicely for previewing. And then there's some great tools here too. You can do things like measurements. So here, let me move the model again just to demonstrate that. So for example, if I needed a quick measurement on the wheelbase, let's say I could just go, okay, what is the wheelbase here? 7.02 feet. So that really gives you a very usable measurement tool. And this could definitely be useful for things like quick estimation of, let's say you wanted to purchase a cover for your vehicle. You could estimate what the correct dimensions are without having to go out there with a tape measure and yardstick. So that's really an awesome feature set, and there's a lot of different types of measurements here that you can experiment with, like circle measurements and angular measurements and things like that. Let's see. Oh wow, yeah, really cool. So yeah, and then you can just remove measurements using that X. There is some ability to do some clipping. I'm not really going to mess with that in this video, but you can clip your video a bit, or your model rather. And then let's see, as far as camera projection, perspective, orthographic. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so you can get kind of more of an orthographic corrected view of the model, which again, depending on your particular application, could be maybe more appropriate for the way that you're trying to visualize it. But yeah, that's really nice. And then yeah, you can turn on and off different layers. So if you add things like measurements and annotations, you can turn those off. Very cool. And then it looks like there's ways to filter, maybe by color. I haven't really experimented with that yet. But all in all, a great set of useful tools, all kind of included in a pretty easy to use user interface. In this video, I'm going to import some photos that I took of the roof and backyard area of my house and see if I can figure out how to do an orthomosaic using WebODM. So first I'll select the images here, get these out of my folder. And I took this series of photos at the lowest altitude that I could while still clearing some trees in my backyard. So it was probably, I'm going to say somewhere around 40 feet in elevation to 50 feet. And I took all of these with the camera facing straight down in the nadir position, and I just did a route like this. So this one doesn't have as many individual photos as I used on the Jeep because I really was just trying to figure out more like a straight down orthomosaic type map. So that looks good. I'm going to just use again the default options here. Not actually sure. Maybe one of these would work better. We'll see. I got a message when I did the Jeep about that it couldn't make an orthomosaic, so I'm not sure if maybe it's because of the settings that I have. We'll see if this one works any differently. So I'm going to go ahead and start processing. And again, this one only has 30 images, so hopefully this one will go a little faster. The last one took about 12-15 minutes or something. Alright, so my roof photos have imported successfully. See a little preview there. So since this was intended to be more like for an orthomosaic, I'm just going to take a look at the map and see how it did. Okay. Well, that looks pretty cool. Before I started this video, I just cropped to just my yard here. But you can see it did a pretty good job, even though I didn't. I probably should have done a flyover of this area. I only kind of did a flyover of the roof, so this area gets a little crunchy there. But all in all, it seems to have done a pretty decent job of providing an orthomosaic of the roof, and it shows some interesting details that you wouldn't see otherwise. Like I can see here, I've got a little accumulation of leaves and debris that I should probably clean off. So right there, you can see kind of a useful feature for inspecting your home. And it also has some really interesting features that I just started exploring. So there's this. This is the orthophoto mode. Again, I only used about 30 photographs with the nadir angle, so pointing straight down. And so that's why if you look at the 3D map of the home here, it's not going to look as good as the Jeep one did because I didn't actually take any photos of the side of the house. So it's got the roof, but it's just kind of a floating roof with no bottom. So if I really wanted a more accurate 3D model, I'd have to kind of take a flight route around the house and point toward the house. But of course, that would be challenging because there's trees and everything around here. So for the purposes of this, I really just wanted to get that orthomosaic view looking straight down. And it seems to have done a good job of that. So here, if I scroll in a little bit here. So going back to the 2D map, it has three different built-in layer options. So there's the orthophoto, there's this plant health view, which of course would be more useful for things like fields and show kind of differences in lighting in the red and green spectrum, which I think would help you identify if maybe you had rows that were not as healthy and things like that. So that's kind of a useful feature if you are using this for field and crop analysis. And then it also has the surface model here, which really gives you a much better view of the elevation differences. And of course, in this case, you can see the pitch of the roof very clearly and exactly where the different roof lines meet. And like this is a little cutout over an outdoor patio. So I think it's done a really good job of representing that. You can see the chimney here. This is an umbrella in the backyard, some little planter boxes, my truck in the driveway. So I think this really is quite capable program for the incredibly low cost, and it seems to do a really serviceable job of providing the key features that you need out of 3D photogrammetry program. I also, if I go to the measure feature here, all right, well, that's cool. It gives you the perimeter area, volume, um, base surface, some really cool features.